If you ever dare to open your mouth again, I'll break more than your ribs." That was my father's voice, cold, merciless, as I lay gasping on the floor at just 19 years old, clutching my side, feeling every crack burn through my chest. And the worst part? He didn't just hurt me physically, he demanded I lie. "Say you fell, Emily. Do you hear me? Say it." My own dad, the man who was supposed to protect me, was now the one threatening to erase my truth. But fate had other plans, because when the nurse leaned in to check my injuries, her eyes locked onto mine. She saw the terror I was too afraid to speak, and instead of silence, she reached for the phone. What happened after that moment turned my world upside down. If you're already feeling my pain, don't hesitate to drop a "I understand" in the comments. It means more than you know. I wake up to the sound of a steady mechanical beeping. At first it's distant, almost like I'm hearing it from underwater. My mind is foggy and my body feels like it's been hit by a freight train. Every inch of me is screaming in pain, but nothing hurts more than my chest. Each breath comes with a violent sting, like 1,000 sharp knives cutting through my ribs. I'm gasping for air, but it feels like my lungs are being crushed under the weight of something heavy. My arms feel like dead weight, useless and numb. It's hard to even lift a finger. My legs are stuck in place as if my body is chained to the bed. And the bed, it's cold, unyielding. The rough hospital sheets scratch against my skin, a stark contrast to the warmth of my blood on my lips. The taste of iron lingers there, thick and bitter. I force my eyes open, but the harsh neon lights above me are too much to bear. They stab at my eyes like needles, buzzing and flickering. The light casts jagged shadows that crawl across the sterile white walls, making the whole room feel like a nightmare. The air is heavy with the smell of antiseptic, bleach, that sharp, clinical scent that makes my stomach turn. It mixes with the sharp tang of blood, and for a moment I feel like I might choke on it. I can barely keep my eyes open, but when I do, I see a faint silhouette through the glass door. It's him, my father. I don't know how long I've been here. My sense of time is warped. Was it minutes, hours, or days? It doesn't matter. The only thing I can focus on right now is the pain, and him, the man who's always been in control of my life, pulling the strings like I'm nothing more than a puppet, the man who's made my world a cage. I can hear someone moving beside me, a nurse, I think. Her voice is soft, gentle, but there's an edge to it. "Don't worry, hon," she whispers, so close I can feel her breath against my cheek. "We've called the police." The words hit me like a lightning strike. The police? My heart stops, a sudden shock racing through me. For a split second, I can't process it. The police? No one. No one has ever challenged him. Not like this. My father's control is absolute, like he's the ruler of his own kingdom, and we're all just subjects under his thumb. He's always made sure to cover his tracks, to keep us quiet, to make me believe I was nothing without him. But now, someone outside of this twisted world we've been living in has done what I couldn't do. They've called the police. I blink, trying to focus, to clear the fog in my mind. I turn my head, slowly, painfully, to look at the glass door. And there he is. My father, standing just outside in the hallway, his back to the door. He's not looking at me, but I can feel his presence, his coldness. His figure is silhouetted against the harsh fluorescent light, and I can just make out the shape of his glasses reflecting the overhead glow. He's standing still, like a statue, watching, waiting. I can't see his face clearly, but I know that look, that smile, the one that always twists in his eyes, the one that makes my stomach churn. It's the same smile he always wears when he thinks he's in control, when he knows he's untouchable. That smug, condescending grin that makes my blood boil. I want to scream at him. I want to shout at him for everything he's done to me, to my family, for the years of silence, for the lies, for the manipulation. I want to scream for all the times he's made me feel like I'm nothing, that I'm weak, that I deserve this. But the words don't come. The pain in my chest is too much, the fog in my brain too thick. I open my mouth, but no sound escapes. But there's something else, something deep inside me that's been buried for years, hidden under layers of fear and anger. It stirs now, pushing through the haze of pain. A memory, a sound, a recording. At first it's faint, just a whisper in the back of my mind, but it grows louder, clearer. A conversation I wasn't supposed to hear, his voice smooth and controlled, but there's something different about it. A secret. A conversation I overheard once, buried in his desk, hidden away where I was never meant to look. It's all coming back to me now, the pieces fitting together, but I still don't understand what it means. What did he say? What was he hiding? I can't make sense of it. Not yet. But I know it's important. I know it holds the answers to everything. Why I'm here. Why my life has been nothing but his manipulation. Why he's kept me trapped in this twisted world, under his thumb. I close my eyes, the pain still gnawing at me. But as I lie there, something shifts inside. A flicker of resolve. A spark of defiance that I thought I'd lost forever. I've spent so many years believing I was nothing without him, trapped in the life he's created for me. But now I realize I don't have to listen to him anymore. I've had enough. The pain? Yeah, it's real. It's unbearable. But the fire inside me, that's just beginning to burn. The police are coming. They've called them. This is it. The truth is starting to crack open, and for the first time, I'm not just a victim. I'm going to fight back. I'm not going to let him control me anymore. What's he hiding? What secret is so powerful, so dangerous, that he'd hurt me, manipulate everyone around him just to keep it buried? I don't know yet, but I will. And when I find out, I'll make sure everyone knows the truth too. The house I grew up in was quiet. Too quiet. It was the kind of quiet that settled in your chest, heavy and suffocating, like it was always waiting for something to break. Our neighbors, the ones with the perfect lawns and constant barbecues in the summer, always greeted us with fake smiles like everything was fine. But inside, behind closed doors, it was a different story. After Mom died, everything changed. I was 8, too young to understand the depths of what losing her would mean for both of us. Dad wasn't the same. He became distant, cold, a shell of the man he used to be. And then, slowly, he began to build this wall around us, around me. A fortress of rules like a prison with no bars. It started with small things. No running in the house. No talking when he was watching TV. No stepping out of line, ever. One wrong move, and I'd feel the sting of the belt across my legs. The sound of leather cutting through the air, the way it felt when it hit my skin, still echoes in my mind. The way the pain would burn and linger long after the strike had passed. And the worst part? It wasn't just the physical pain. It was the silence that followed. That long, cold silence where I was made to feel like I deserved it. Like I was a burden. "You owe me for raising you alone," he would say, his voice hard, like he was trying to make me believe that somehow I was the one at fault. His words always followed the same pattern. "You don't appreciate what I've done for you. You're nothing without me." And I believed him. I had to. I had no choice. I tiptoed through life like that, like walking on eggshells. Everything had to be perfect, or I'd face the consequences. My world was his to control. My happiness, my voice, even my very thoughts were his to dictate. I learned early on that silence was my cage, and I had to stay inside it if I wanted to survive. But then one night I overheard something that shattered the silence. It was late, and the house was quiet except for the soft hum of the fridge and the distant sound of Dad pacing in his office. I was supposed to be in bed, but I couldn't sleep. Not with that feeling gnawing at me, the feeling that something wasn't right. I crept out of my room, careful not to make a sound, and I tiptoed toward the hallway, just in time to hear the faint buzz of Dad's phone. I didn't mean to listen, but I couldn't help it. His voice was low, almost a whisper, as if he didn't want anyone to hear him. "Yes," he said, "I'm handling it. No one can know about the will. Not yet." I froze. My heart skipped a beat. A will? What was he talking about? What did he mean? No one can know. I had no idea what that call was about, but I knew it was important. I didn't understand it then, but I could feel it. This cold weight hanging over everything. Like something was buried deep, something my father was desperately trying to keep hidden. I stood there, my breath held tight in my chest, listening to the sound of him muttering on the other end of the line. He didn't hear me. I was just a shadow in the dark. But that moment, that single whisper, stayed with me. A secret, locked away, just like everything else. I didn't dare ask him about it. I didn't have the courage then. I didn't even know how. But that call, that quiet, secret conversation stuck with me. What was he hiding? What was so important that he had to keep it a secret from me? From everyone? I've often wondered if that was the moment when everything started to change. That was when the doubt crept in. That was when the walls began to crack. But the truth? That would come much later. Growing up, the house never felt like home. It wasn't warm or welcoming. It was a place to survive, a place to keep my head down and avoid making waves. Every day felt like a balancing act, like walking a tightrope where one misstep could send me tumbling into punishment, into more silence. And as much as I hated it, I had learned to live with it, to accept it, because there was no other way. But there was always that feeling in the pit of my stomach, that nagging sensation that something was wrong. It was the way he'd look at me, his eyes cold, his face tight, whenever I did anything that wasn't in his perfect, controlled plan. It was the way he'd tell me over and over that I owed him. Owed him for what? For raising me? For giving me the life he wanted, not the one I had dreamed of? The thing is, I never had a choice in the matter. I couldn't ask questions, couldn't defy him, and I didn't dare challenge him, not until much later, not until I couldn't take it anymore. What was that call about? What was he hiding? Even now, I don't know the full truth, but I'll find out. I'll dig until I uncover it all. I was just a teenager, but it felt like I had the weight of the world on my shoulders, the weight of silence, the weight of never being allowed to speak my mind, to have a life of my own. All I wanted was to break free, even just for a moment. The school drama club was my escape. It was where I could breathe, where I could be someone else for a while, away from the suffocating rules at home. I dreamed of acting, of stepping into a different world, far from the prison of my own. But my father, he wouldn't have it. "Drama club, it'll ruin you," he said one evening, his voice low and cold. "Stay home, do something useful." I remember feeling a rush of heat in my chest, a fire I couldn't quite control. I was angry, furious even. "Why can't I go? It's just drama," I protested. But he didn't even look up from the newspaper he was reading. He just shook his head, dismissing me like I was a nuisance, a thing to be controlled. "No one else would put up with you," he added, as if he had somehow been burdened with the responsibility of raising me. His words hit me harder than any of the punishments he'd dished out over the years. I had heard them before, 1,000 times, but they always felt like a hammer to my heart, each one driving a deeper nail into my confidence, breaking it piece by piece. I was a prisoner, trapped not just by the rules, but by his constant crushing words. My world was small, suffocating, and I couldn't escape. Beatings had lessened as I grew older, but the control was still there, wrapped around me like chains, tight and suffocating. Every step I took, every decision I made was watched, scrutinized. And every time I tried to step outside the boundaries, the consequences were swift and painful, but I didn't care. The drama club was my dream, and I would do anything to make it mine, even if it meant facing him, even if it meant rebellion. But I never expected to find what I found that night. It was a quiet evening, the kind that felt too heavy in a house that never seemed to breathe. I was sitting on my bed trying to study, surrounded by the mess of school books and papers scattered around. The weight of the world seemed to press on me harder than usual. That night, I felt it more than ever. The pull to do something different, to be someone else. I shuffled through the drawer beside my bed, looking for something to distract myself when my fingers brushed against an old object. It was a dusty recorder, the kind with buttons that clicked loudly when pressed. I hadn't seen it in years. It had once belonged to my father, buried deep in the drawer, hidden like a relic from another time. I pulled it out, half curious, half nostalgic, and pushed play. The static crackled for a moment before his voice came through, clear as day. "You can't let her know. If she finds out about the money, she'll leave too," he said. His voice was calm, controlled, but there was something cold in it, something that sent a shiver down my spine. I cut her off. "I won't let anyone take her from me. She's mine, and I'll make sure she stays that way." I froze, my heart pounding in my chest, my hands shaking as the words echoed in my head. The recording continued, but I didn't need to hear more. I knew what it meant. My aunt. My father had cut her off. He had kept her away from me, kept her away from the rest of the family, all to control me, all to keep me trapped in this cage, this life he had built around me. I wanted to scream, to cry, to throw the recorder against the wall, but instead I sat there, frozen. Betrayal. That was the only word that came to mind. He had been manipulating me for years, controlling me, keeping me in line with guilt, with fear. But this was a new low. I couldn't even begin to process what it meant. Why would he do this? Why would he isolate me from my family, from people who could help me? What else was he hiding? But fear gripped me. I had learned over the years that questioning him, defying him, always led to pain. And now, with this revelation, I couldn't shake the feeling that if I dared to speak out, if I dared to confront him, it would all come crashing down. So I kept quiet, hiding the recorder back in the drawer where it belonged, but the anger was there. It simmered beneath the surface, a constant reminder of what he had done to me. He wasn't just controlling. He was stealing my life. And the worst part, he didn't even see it. He didn't care. He saw me as nothing more than a tool to keep his world in order. I wanted to fight. I wanted to stand up to him, but the fear, the years of conditioning, held me back. For now, I didn't know then, but that moment, the moment I heard his voice, the moment the truth came to light, was the seed of defiance. It would grow, slowly at first, but it would grow nonetheless. And one day I would find the courage to tear down the walls he had built around me. For now, all I could do was hold on to the rage, the betrayal, the pain. But someday I would make him pay for this. Why isolate me like this? Why keep me from my family? What was he really afraid of? I thought moving out would change everything. That leaving would give me space to breathe, to finally escape the suffocating grip of my father. I never imagined I'd still feel him, lurking in the shadows of my life, even miles away. Now, in my late 20s, I work retail at a mall in Chicago. It's not glamorous, but it's my way of surviving. I pay my own bills, buy my own groceries, make my own decisions. At least that's what I keep telling myself. It's supposed to feel like freedom, right? I should be proud of how far I've come, but the truth is, it feels like I'm still living in his world, still trapped. My father doesn't just let me go. He doesn't let me breathe. I still carry his presence with me, whether I like it or not. The worst part? It's disguised as care. Protecting his daughter, he calls it. I never get away from him. Not really. I thought I'd be free when I left home, but instead I'm tethered to him, tied by invisible strings. Every time I check my phone, there's another notification, another text, another reminder of his control. When I'm late for work, my phone buzzes. I don't even need to look to know what it says. I can feel the knot tightening in my stomach. Late again? Don't test me. Those words hit every time like a slap to the face. They're nothing new. They're nothing I haven't heard 1,000 times before. But it's always the same thing. Always the same guilt trip. You owe me. You're nothing without me. It's all wrapped up in this twisted notion that he's protecting me, when in reality he's suffocating me. I've learned to ignore it, to let it roll off my back. But the scars are still there. The bruises, though faded, still hide under the long sleeves I wear to cover them up. The marks he left don't go away. They're permanent. His control is permanent. I should be grateful, right? I should be happy that I've broken free, that I'm not living under his roof anymore. But I can't shake the feeling that I'm still trapped, still under his watchful eyes. It's like he's always lurking, just waiting for the moment I slip up. And then, one night, it happened. I was at home, in the small apartment I thought would be my sanctuary. The lights from the street filtered through the blinds, casting long shadows across the room. The air was thick with silence, the only noise being the soft hum of the refrigerator. I'd just gotten back from work, my feet aching from standing all day. Exhausted, I was ready to collapse into bed. But then I noticed something, a cable. It was tucked behind a shelf, half hidden, its end barely visible. At first, I thought it was just a stray wire from the TV or maybe the internet, nothing unusual. But then it hit me. The realization hit like a cold wave, freezing me in place. What if it was a camera? I froze, staring at the cable. 1,000 thoughts rushed through my head. My father. He'd always been controlling, always obsessed with knowing everything about me. What if he had planted this camera? What if he was watching me, even now, in this tiny apartment that I thought was my escape? My heart started racing, the blood pounding in my ears. I couldn't breathe for a second. My fingers trembled as I reached for the cable, slowly pulling it out from behind the shelf. The room felt like it was closing in around me, like the walls were tightening, suffocating me. I didn't want to know the truth, but I had to. I tugged the cable free. My hands were shaking, and for a moment, I just stood there, holding it, my mind reeling. I could feel his eyes on me, even though he wasn't here. The paranoia, the anxiety, the fear, everything I'd been living with for so long came crashing back in that instant. And then I saw it. A small, discreet camera attached to the end of the cable. It was hidden in plain sight, so small that it was almost invisible unless you knew where to look. I felt a cold rush of panic flood through me. My worst fear was confirmed. He had been watching me. He was still watching me. The room seemed to shrink and my chest tightened. It felt like the walls were closing in, pressing in on me from all sides. I couldn't escape him. Not really. Not even here, in my own home. I could feel his presence, his control, even though he was miles away. He had invaded every corner of my life, every space I thought was mine. I threw the camera into a drawer, my hands shaking uncontrollably. I wanted to destroy it. I wanted to throw it out, burn it, get rid of everything that tied me to him. But I couldn't. The fear was too strong. The thought of confronting him, of facing him, terrified me. Instead, I just sat there in the dark, the weight of it all crushing me. I could feel the years of control weighing down on me, the years he'd stolen from me, the years I'd spent under his watchful eyes. I had tried to break free, to escape, but nothing ever truly changed. He was always there, always watching, always controlling. What did he want from me? Why couldn't he just let me go? Why couldn't he just let me live my life? The questions swirled around in my mind, unanswered, unresolved. I didn't know the answers yet, but I knew one thing for sure. This wasn't over. I was going to find a way to break free, to expose him for everything he was. I wasn't going to let him win. Not anymore. I could feel the weight of the day still pressing on my shoulders as I dragged myself into my apartment. My legs ached from standing all day at work, the tiredness sinking deep into my bones. All I wanted was a hot coffee, something to make me feel alive again after hours of monotonous work. A Starbucks coffee, something strong and warm, was all I needed. I walked through the door, letting the faint buzz of city noise fade behind me as I entered the quiet of my apartment. But then I stopped. The air was thick, heavy with the scent of cleaning solution. It almost burned my nose, that sharp chemical smell lingering in the corners of the room. I felt the hairs on the back of my neck stand up, and I froze. He was here. I knew it before I saw him. My father, standing there, scrubbing at the kitchen counter like a man possessed, his hands moving in quick, erratic motions. It was the kind of cleaning you only do when you're trying to scrub away something deeper, something hidden, something that can't be washed away. I stood in the doorway for a moment, just watching him. The man who had controlled my every move for so many years. The man who had torn my life apart with his lies and manipulation. And now, here he was again, in my space, in my life, uninvited. "Clean it now," he demanded, his voice cold, clipped. "I'm not leaving until you do." I didn't answer at first. I didn't know what to say. I was exhausted, every inch of me worn out from the day. But I knew this wasn't about cleaning the kitchen. It never was with him. He had some twisted need to control, to make sure I felt small, insignificant, like I still belonged to him. "Dad," I said, trying to keep my voice steady, "I just got back from work. Can I have 10 minutes? Please, just 10. His eyes flicked to me, and I saw that look. The look he always gave me when I was pushing back, when I wasn't doing what he wanted. A mix of disbelief and contempt, as if I were nothing more than an inconvenience. "No," he snapped, his voice low and dangerous. "Get to work now. Don't make me tell you again." I could feel the tension rising, thickening the air between us. Every word felt like a slap, every movement sharp and calculated. I took a deep breath, trying to stay calm, but the anger, the frustration, it was building up inside me, threatening to explode. I walked past him toward the counter, my heart hammering in my chest. I needed to stay calm, but the exhaustion, the years of control, it was all too much. I felt trapped, cornered, and I hated him for it. I reached for my coffee cup, still sitting untouched on the counter, the last thing I had wanted to do before all this. But as my hand wrapped around the cup, his voice stopped me again. "You know the camera's watching," he said, his tone cold and dismissive. "I don't need to tell you again." I froze. My blood ran cold. The camera, I had almost forgotten about it. That small camera I'd found in the apartment. The one that had sent a chill through me when I realized what it was. It all came rushing back. The fear, the paranoia, the suffocating feeling that I couldn't escape him, no matter where I went. He had been watching me. Always. But it wasn't just the camera. The way he said it, the way his voice seemed to linger on the words, it was a threat, a warning. Like he knew something I didn't. Like he was holding something over me. Something that could destroy me. "Camera?" I asked, my voice shaking despite my attempt to sound confident. "What are you talking about?" He didn't answer right away. Instead, he looked at me, his eyes narrowing, like he was trying to decide whether to say more. Finally, he spoke again, his words dripping with a cold finality. "There's a witness," he said, his voice barely above a whisper, but the words struck like a knife. "A witness from your past, someone who knows everything." My heart skipped a beat. What did he mean? Who was he talking about? What past was he referring to? I tried to stay calm, but the panic was creeping up my spine, crawling under my skin. There was something I wasn't seeing, something I didn't know. "A witness?" I repeated, my voice barely audible. "What are you talking about?" But he was already turning away, his back to me, his movements quick and mechanical as he continued scrubbing at the counter. The conversation was over. For him, at least. The tension in the room was unbearable. I could feel it pressing on my chest, making it hard to breathe. He had said it so casually, like it was nothing, like it was just another thing he held over me. A secret, a weapon. I didn't know what he meant by witness, but I couldn't shake the feeling that it was connected to everything else. The years of manipulation, the abuse, the way he'd always made me feel trapped. There was more to this, more than he was letting on. I wanted to scream, to shout at him, demand answers, but I couldn't. I was paralyzed. His words hung in the air, sharp and cold, and the weight of them pressed down on me. A witness? What did that mean? The fear gnawed at me, but so did something else, something deeper, the anger, the resolve. I wasn't going to let him control me anymore. Not today, not ever again. The truth was out there, and I would find it. But who was this witness, and why was he hiding this from me? The kitchen was too quiet, too cold. The sound of my father's voice, low and steady, cut through the silence like a blade. I knew something was wrong the moment I walked in. His eyes were too hard, too cold. He didn't even look at me when he told me to clean. His body was tense, like a coiled spring, waiting to snap. I could feel it in the air, thick and suffocating, hanging between us. "Clean it now," he demanded again, his words like ice. His hands gripped the countertop, knuckles white, as if they were the only thing holding him together. I didn't move. I couldn't. I had begged him earlier for just 10 minutes, but he didn't care. He never did. I stood my ground, but the tension was unbearable. I felt like I was suffocating, trapped in a cage I couldn't escape. "You don't get to control me anymore," I said, my voice shaky but firm. The words tasted like freedom, and for a moment I felt a flicker of defiance burn inside me. But the flicker was short-lived. In an instant, he lunged at me, a blur of motion that caught me off guard. My body collided with the corner of the kitchen counter, the sharp edge digging into my hip. The pain shot through me, and I gasped for air. Before I could even react, his elbow slammed into my ribs, the crack of bone so loud it echoed through the room like a gunshot. I doubled over, gasping, clutching at my side, the pain searing through my chest like fire. It was worse than anything I had ever felt. My knees buckled beneath me, and I crumpled to the floor, the cold tile pressing against my skin. "You want to argue with me?" he hissed, standing over me, his voice thick with fury. "Keep arguing, and I'll shut you up for good." The words hit me harder than the punch. His face was twisted with that smug grin, the same look he always had when he knew he had the power. It wasn't just anger, it was control. He wanted to dominate me. He always had. The memories of Mom, of everything that had happened, all came rushing back in that moment. The way she'd died, the way he'd treated me after, as if I were nothing. His need to control me wasn't just about power. It was about something darker, something deep inside him that I could never understand. Help. I managed to gasp, my voice barely a whisper, my body shaking uncontrollably. I could feel the tears threatening to fall, but I didn't want to give him that satisfaction. I didn't want him to see me weak. He didn't seem to care. "Fine," he said coldly, his tone dripping with disdain. "I'll call an ambulance, but you're going to tell them you fell. Understand?" I stared up at him, unable to process what was happening. This wasn't just about cleaning. This wasn't just about arguing. This was about control, about power. And he wasn't going to stop until he had broken me completely. I wanted to scream, to lash out, but I couldn't. I was trapped. He had always been the one in control, and now Now he was going to cover up what he had done, erase the evidence of what had really happened. He walked away without another word, picking up his phone and dialing for the ambulance. My ribs ached with every shallow breath, the sharp pain gnawing at me. But as I lay there on the cold kitchen floor, my mind went back to something he had done years ago, a memory buried deep, but now it surfaced like a wave crashing over me. I remembered. He had faked a heart condition. He had told me that he needed me to stay home, that I couldn't go to college because of his condition. He used it as an excuse to keep me close, to trap me in the life he had built for me. It had been a lie, a manipulation. He hadn't been sick. He had done it to keep me from leaving, to keep me from finding my own life. The realization hit me like a ton of bricks, and for the first time, I understood everything. He had been controlling me, lying to me, manipulating me all these years, not because he cared about me, but because he couldn't stand the thought of losing his grip on me. And now he was trying to do it again. He was trying to cover up what he had just done, trying to hide his abuse like it was nothing. "Say you fell, or you'll regret it," he had said. The words echoed in my mind, and something inside me snapped. No more. The pain in my ribs was nothing compared to the fire burning inside me now. I wasn't going to let him get away with this. I wasn't going to let him hide behind his lies anymore. He thought he could break me. But he was wrong. He had no idea who he was messing with now. I would make sure the truth came out, no matter the cost. But how deep did his lies go? How far had he gone to keep me under his control? I didn't know yet, but I would find out. And when I did, everything was going to change. The fluorescent lights overhead buzz incessantly, their cold glare stabbing through my eyelids. I feel the sharp sting as my ribs scream in agony with every shallow breath. The pain is unbearable, raw, and endless, but it's the silence that feels heavier than anything else. The sterile smell of the ER wraps around me, clean, clinical, but also suffocating. And beyond the curtain, I know he's there. My father. His presence is a constant weight, an unshakable shadow waiting for the moment to pounce. I feel his eyes, cold and calculating just beyond the glass. He's pretending to be concerned, standing by the door like the worried father, but I know better. His fake concern doesn't fool me anymore. I can hear it in his voice, the way he manipulates everyone around him, twisting the truth, hiding the lies. He's always been this way. He wants control, and I've spent my whole life letting him have it. But now, I'm done. The pain in my ribs is overwhelming, but it's nothing compared to the fear that still grips me. What happens next? Will I get out of this? Will I finally be free? A soft voice breaks through my thoughts, gentle and soothing. A nurse enters the cubicle, her footsteps light against the cold floor. I barely notice her at first, my mind drowning in the haze of pain and fear. But then, her touch on my arm brings me back to reality. Her hands are cool, practiced, checking my vitals as she moves across the bed. It's all routine for her, but for me, it's more than that. She's my lifeline, the first person who's actually seen me, really seen me, since all of this began. She leans closer, her voice barely a whisper, as if she's afraid of being overheard. "You don't have to protect him," she says, her words calm but firm. "We've called the police." The words hit me like a bolt of lightning. For a second, I can't breathe. My chest tightens, my pulse racing. The police? They've called the police? For years, I've lived in fear, unable to speak up, unable to do anything but cover for him. I've protected him, convinced myself that I had no choice, that this was the life I was meant to live. But now, this nurse, this stranger, has just shattered that illusion. She sees me. For the first time in a long time, someone outside my family sees the truth. I don't know how to respond. My mouth feels dry, my thoughts scattered. All I can do is lie there, my ribs throbbing with every breath, trying to process what's happening. The weight of it all crashes down on me, but for the first time, I feel a flicker of hope. It's small, fragile, but it's there. The nurse's eyes are kind, understanding, as she reassures me. "You don't have to cover for him," she says again, her voice a soft comfort. "They're on their way." The words take a moment to sink in, but when they do, they feel like a lifeline, a thread pulling me out of the darkness. After years of silence, of living in his shadow, someone has finally heard me. The police are coming. My father can't control this. I close my eyes for a moment, letting the reality of it wash over me. My breath is still shallow, my body aching, but there's a spark of something else now, something I haven't felt in years. Hope. It's flickering, hesitant, but it's there. A light at the end of the tunnel that I thought was long extinguished, but even as hope begins to grow, fear creeps back in. I can feel my father's presence just beyond the curtain, his eyes boring into me through the glass. I know he's trying to stay calm, to play the part of the concerned father, but I've seen this game before. His cold eyes, that smug smile. He's already plotting his next move. The manipulation, the lies. It's all just part of his control. The nurse moves away to check on other patients, leaving me alone with my thoughts. The beeping monitors around me continue their rhythmic pulse, a constant reminder of the fragile state I'm in. The sound is almost deafening in the stillness of the room. My father's shadow is still there, just out of view, but I feel him. I feel the weight of his presence pressing down on me. I want to speak, to ask the nurse more questions, but the fear grips me. What happens when my father finds out? Will he try to stop me again? Will he twist the truth, make me seem like I'm the crazy one, like he always does? The questions circle in my mind, but there's something else now, something stronger, a quiet resolve. I've spent my whole life hiding from him, protecting his lies, afraid to speak out. But now, I don't have to. Someone has finally seen me. They know the truth, and the police are coming. The fear is still there, gnawing at me. But it's no longer the only thing I feel. I feel something else rising within me, determination. It's not going to be easy, but for the first time, I see a way out, a way to break free. Can I really seize this chance? Can I finally take control of my own life? I don't have all the answers yet, but I know one thing for sure. This isn't the end. This is just the beginning. And I'm ready to fight for my freedom. The ambulance ride felt like an eternity. The red lights flashed through the narrow streets of Chicago, casting eerie shadows across the interior. I could hear the sirens wailing, a steady pulse that matched the frantic beating of my heart. My breath came in shallow gasps, each one sharp and painful as the broken ribs in my chest protested every movement. I wanted to scream, to beg for the pain to stop, but no sound came, just a dull hum and the echo of my own thoughts. I tried to focus on anything else, anything to distract me from the pain. My eyes drifted to the window, watching as the city blurred past, but everything seemed distant, out of reach. The words of the nurse in the ER kept replaying in my mind. You don't have to protect him. For years, I'd been forced to hide the truth, to protect my father's lies. But now there was no escape. The police were coming, and I had a choice to make. As the ambulance came to a stop, the doors swung open and I was rushed into the ER. The bright lights, the cold tiles, the sterile, almost suffocating atmosphere. It all felt like a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. The paramedics worked quickly, their voices muffled as they maneuvered me onto the bed. The pain was all-consuming, but there was a strange sense of relief, too, knowing that, for once, someone was here to help. And then, of course, there was my father. He stood by the door, looking every bit the worried parent, his face twisted in a mask of concern. The moment he saw me, his voice rose, thick with fake worry. "She's always been clumsy," he said, his tone dripping with concern, but his eyes were cold, calculating. "She tripped in the kitchen. It's nothing." The words hung in the air, but they felt like lies, like a well-practiced script he'd delivered too many times before. His hands were clenched at his sides, and I could see the tension in his jaw. He was trying to maintain control, to shape the narrative to fit his story, but I could see through him. I knew him too well. The doctor and the nurse exchanged a glance, but I could hardly focus on them. Instead, my eyes darted around the room, the bright lights above me making everything feel harsh, too bright. I could hear the sound of an X-ray machine humming softly in the background. The doctor moved to examine me, pressing gently on my ribs, and I winced, the pain shooting through my body like a flash of lightning. "2 broken ribs," the doctor said, his voice neutral, as if it were just another case, "and bruising on the side." My father's face faltered for a moment, but he quickly recovered, that familiar, smug look returning. "She's always been so careless," he muttered, "always tripping over herself. I'm surprised she hasn't broken more than just ribs." The words felt like a punch to the gut. It wasn't carelessness, it was abuse. It was years of being controlled, manipulated, silenced. But I couldn't say that out loud. I had no proof. No one would believe me. Then, as the nurse moved around the room, she asked a question that made the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. "Has anyone ever seen her injuries before?" she asked, her tone casual but her eyes searching. I froze. My father's face went pale for just a second, but then he covered it with a smile, an icy, rehearsed smile. "No," he said, his voice tight. "She's always been this way, just clumsy, you know?" But the nurse didn't seem convinced. She glanced at the bruises on my arms, the dark circles under my eyes, the bruising on my ribs. She didn't say anything else, but the look she gave me was enough. She knew. She saw what he was trying to hide. A memory flashed in my mind so clear that it startled me. I remembered the sound of a phone call I'd overheard when I was younger, something I had pushed to the back of my mind. I hadn't understood it at the time, but now, with everything falling into place, I remembered the conversation. My father had been talking to someone, talking about how to keep me trapped, and there was a mention of something. Witnesses. It was like a flicker in the dark, a puzzle piece I couldn't quite place. But the fear, the weight of his lies, his manipulation was still there. It was all unraveling, but I couldn't see the whole picture yet. Not completely. I wanted to ask the nurse everything, to scream, to demand answers. But the look in my father's eyes, the cold, calculating glare, held me back. He was watching, waiting, his presence suffocating. I wanted to fight back. I wanted to shout that he was lying. But the pain in my ribs and the fear of what would happen if I pushed him too far kept me silent. For now. What was he hiding? What else had he done that no one knew about? And then the worst thought of all. Who was that witness? I didn't know the answers yet, but I could feel the pieces slowly clicking together. The mystery was deepening, and with each passing moment I could feel the walls of his lies starting to crack. But I wasn't free yet, not yet. The fluorescent lights above flicker, buzzing faintly in the background as I lie there, still recovering from the shock of it all. My body is screaming in pain, my ribs protesting every breath. But it's not just the physical pain that makes my chest tighten. It's the overwhelming weight of everything I've been hiding for so long. The lies, the control, the manipulation, all of it has brought me to this point. For so long, I was silent. For so long, I let him shape my world. But not anymore. 2 police officers enter the ER cubicle, their footsteps firm and deliberate. The woman, tall with sharp eyes, takes the lead, while the man, younger with a stern expression, follows. They both look down at me. their eyes flicking to my bruised ribs, and the cuts I know they can see beneath my hospital gown. I feel their gaze, cold but understanding. They don't judge. They're not here to question my worth, not like him. I take a shaky breath, my voice rough but steady as I start to speak. The words tumble out in a rush, as if I can't contain them anymore. He shoved me into the counter. He's been controlling me for years, telling me what to think, how to feel, what to do. He's been hurting me, emotionally and physically. The woman officer scribbles notes as I speak. Her pen scratches across the paper, the sound sharp in the otherwise quiet room. My heart pounds with every word, but I don't stop. I can't. I won't let him control the narrative this time. He's always had a way of twisting everything, making me feel like I'm the one in the wrong. But he's been hurting me for years. He's the one who's broken. My voice cracks, but I fight it, forcing the words through the lump in my throat. I'm done hiding his truth. It ends now. The officer looks at me, her eyes soft but determined. She asks a few more questions, making sure everything is clear. But as she writes, I can hear my father's voice outside the cubicle, muffled but unmistakable. His defensive tone, the way he tries to sway the paramedic into believing his version of the story, spinning his web of lies like he's done 1,000 times before. His voice is like a knife, twisting in my gut. I can feel the weight of his presence through the walls, his manipulation still clawing at me, even now, but I won't let it break me. Then, as if fate decided to answer my unspoken question, the woman officer looks up from her notebook and says something that chills me to my core. "There's an old report about surveillance tied to him," she says, her voice low but steady. "Something about digital monitoring." I freeze. My mind races, a cold wave of realization washing over me. Surveillance? He had cameras, didn't he? The one I found. The one I shoved away, terrified of what it meant. But there's more, isn't there? The officer's words confirm my deepest fear. He wasn't just controlling me physically. He was watching me, tracking my every move. All these years, he had eyes on me. He'd been monitoring me in ways I hadn't even known. The cameras, the apps, the texts. It all makes sense now, the pieces falling into place. He wasn't just a controlling father. He was a man who needed to dominate, to own every part of me. I can feel the world shifting beneath me, the floor tilting as I realize the full scope of what he's done. My mind flashes back to the cable I found in my apartment, the camera, the paranoia I felt when I saw it, the icy grip of fear that had held me in place, too scared to move. But now, with the police involved, with someone else finally seeing the truth, the fear starts to burn away. It's being replaced by something else, something stronger. The officer looks at me, and I can tell she's trying to piece it all together. "We'll need to dig into this report," she says, as if reading my mind. "But your father's actions are already raising red flags." The tension in my chest eases, just a little. For the first time, I feel like I'm on the other side of this. I'm not hiding anymore. I'm not letting him twist the story. But even as the relief starts to set in, a part of me is still terrified. How long had he been watching me? How deep did his control go? How much did he know about me, about everything I've ever done? The officer's voice breaks through my thoughts. "Do you have any idea who this witness might be?" I can feel my heart skip a beat. The witness, the one my father had been trying to silence. Who were they? What did they know? I shake my head slowly. I don't know, but I'm going to find out. I feel the weight of their gaze on me, but this time, it doesn't feel like a threat. It feels like something else, like support, like hope. This is it. This is my chance. The lies are finally unraveling, and there's no going back now. I take a deep breath, feeling the weight of everything. The pain, the fear, the years of control, lifting just a little bit. This isn't over, but for the first time in my life, I'm ready to fight for the truth. I won't back down. Not now. Not ever. The walls of the women's shelter are thin, and the space feels too small. Yet somehow, it's still a sanctuary compared to everything I've left behind. The air is cold, but it's not the kind of cold that cuts through to your bones, like the fear that used to consume me. It's a different kind of cold, one of relief mixed with the unknown. I sit on a narrow bed, my hands shaking slightly as I dial the number for the free legal hotline. The buzzing in my ears makes it hard to concentrate, but I force myself to focus. My life is hanging on the line here. The phone rings once, twice, and then the voice on the other end picks up. "Hello, how can we help you today?" I take a deep breath. I need help. I need to build a case against my father. He's been controlling me for years, abusing me. He needs to be stopped. There's a brief silence, and then the voice on the other end softens. "We'll help you. We'll get you through this." In the days that follow, it's a whirlwind of gathering evidence, each piece of my past fitting together like a puzzle I never knew existed. I start with my hospital records, proof of the broken ribs, of the bruises that have marked me for so long. I pull out the photos I've hidden for months, the pictures of bruises on my arms and neck, and the text messages that still linger on my phone, threatening texts, guilt trips disguised as concern. Every image, every document, every word feels like a small victory, like I'm chipping away at the years of silence, the years of living in fear. I'm not just gathering evidence, I'm building my case brick by brick. The lawyer I'm working with is patient, guiding me through every step, helping me see the light at the end of this dark tunnel. They even send me a questionnaire to fill out detailing every instance of abuse, every moment of manipulation. As I write it all down, I can't help but feel the weight of it all, each memory, each detail, like a stone that's been dragged along the ground for far too long. But even as I gather evidence, my mind keeps drifting back to the one thing that keeps me up at night: the cameras. My father's obsession with control, his need to know everything, see everything. It gnaws at me. That camera I found in my apartment. I try to push it aside, tell myself it's just paranoia, but the feeling doesn't go away. The more I think about it, the more convinced I become that it's not just a random incident. There's a reason behind it. I have to know. I can't let it go. So, after another long day of phone calls and paperwork, I return to my apartment, determined to search again. The dim light of the street lamps filters through my blinds, casting long, jagged shadows across the room. The silence is deafening. I pull out the lamp, the one I had avoided looking at for so long. My fingers tremble as I twist it apart, unscrewing the base, and that's when I see it. A small hidden camera tucked inside, the lens barely noticeable. It's the same one I saw before, but now it feels different. Real. This was no coincidence. My father had been watching me, tracking my every move, even here in the supposed safety of my own home. The camera, the apps, the messages, it was all part of his twisted game of control. I feel a wave of nausea, but I don't back down. This is my proof. This is what I need to end it all. The camera is small, discreet, but it holds so much power. Power that he's used to manipulate me for years, but no more. This time, I hold the power. I drop the camera into the drawer, my hands still shaking, but there's something else now, a determination, a fire that's been ignited inside me. I'm not going to let him win, not again. The next morning, I sit down with my lawyer once again. The weight of the evidence is heavy in my hands, but it's nothing compared to the weight of the truth that I'm finally ready to tell. I found it, I say, my voice steady despite the tremor in my hands. I found the camera. He's been watching me, tracking my every move, every breath. The lawyer's eyes narrow, but there's a glimmer of understanding. "This is it," they say, voice low. "This is what we need." It's a small victory, but it's a victory nonetheless. The camera, the records, the texts, they're all pieces of the puzzle, and I'm finally starting to see the full picture. But there's still so much more to uncover, so many secrets buried beneath the surface. I can feel the tension rising, the stakes growing higher with every step. What else will I uncover? What else has he done that no one knows about? The pieces are coming together. The walls of his lies are crumbling. But the questions still linger. How far did his manipulation go? What else has he hidden from me? I don't have all the answers yet, but I'm going to find them. Every piece builds a wall against his lies, and soon I'll have enough to bring it all down. The courtroom is a silent battlefield, the air thick with tension. The cold, sterile lighting above casts long shadows on the wooden benches, creating a stark contrast to the warmth of the people sitting in the room. I feel the weight of every pair of eyes that flicker in my direction. But it's the judge's gaze that holds me in place. His eyes are sharp, unwavering as he scans the papers in front of him, preparing to pass judgment on the man who has controlled my life for so long. My father sits next to his lawyer, his face painted with concern, but it's a mask. His eyes, cold and calculating, betray his true feelings. He's trying to play the role of the worried father, but I see right through him. He's been manipulating this narrative for years, twisting the truth to fit his lies. But now, the truth is out. The x-rays of my broken ribs, the nurse's statement confirming my injuries, and the threatening texts he sent. All of it is laid bare. There's no denying the evidence anymore. My father can't hide behind his lies any longer. The judge's voice breaks the silence, cutting through the tension with a firm authority. "The evidence is overwhelming," he says, his eyes fixed on my father. "It is clear that you've been manipulating your daughter, controlling her life in ways that are unacceptable. I'm issuing a restraining order, and you will also be required to attend anger management classes." A wave of relief washes over me, but it's fleeting. For the first time in years, I feel like I can breathe, like I'm not suffocating under his control. I fought for this moment, fought to have my voice heard, fought to expose the truth. But just as I start to feel the weight of that victory, my heart skips a beat, and the floor beneath me seems to shift. I glance over at my work friend. She's sitting near the back of the room, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. I hadn't expected her to testify today, but now she's standing, her body trembling as she walks up to the stand. I can see the guilt in her eyes, the weight of the truth settling on her shoulders. And then her voice breaks the silence, her words striking like a thunderclap. "He made me send those texts to scare you," she says, her voice shaking but resolute. "He told me that you'd never survive without him controlling every move, that you'd fall apart if you were ever left on your own. He said it was for your own good." I freeze. My heart stops in my chest. The world goes silent, and for a moment I'm unsure if I've heard her correctly. My father's face, once so sure and smug, drains of color. The mask he's worn for years, his facade of a caring father, begins to crumble before my eyes. I see him for what he really is, a man who has used manipulation, control, and fear to keep me locked in his grip, to make sure no one saw the real me. I can't believe it. She's one of the few people I trusted, someone I thought would be on my side. But now, the weight of what my father has done is sinking in. He didn't just control me, he used others too. He's twisted everyone around me to keep me trapped in his web of lies. The guilt hits me like a wave. How could I have been so blind? He's been manipulating me for so long that I never saw how deep the deception went, how many people he'd pulled into his game. I've spent so many years fighting his lies, but now I can finally see the full extent of his cruelty. The judge's voice cuts through the haze of my thoughts. "This behavior is unacceptable," he says, his voice unyielding. "You've manipulated and controlled your daughter for far too long. The court will ensure that she is protected moving forward." My father's posture slumps. The proud, domineering figure he once was now seems so small, so defeated. I can see it in the way he's looking at the floor, his jaw clenched, his hands balled into fists. His lies have unraveled, and he knows it. The truth has come out, and there's nothing he can do to stop it. But even as relief floods my veins, a part of me is still tense. This isn't over. The fight is far from finished. My father might have lost control in this room, but he's still dangerous. He's still my father. As the courtroom empties, I take a moment to breathe, to let the weight of everything sink in. The years of fear, the silence, the manipulation, they've all been leading up to this moment. I can feel the power shifting within me, a quiet strength building with every passing second. For the first time in my life, I'm not afraid of him anymore, but the question lingers in my mind, echoing like a shadow in the back of my thoughts. How far did his lies go? What else has he done? What other people has he hurt in the process? And how many more lies has he woven into the fabric of my life? I don't have all the answers yet, but I know this much: I'm going to find out. For the first time, I can see the path ahead clearly. It's not easy. It's not going to be simple. But I'm no longer hiding from the truth. And no matter what, I'm going to fight for what's mine. His mask is gone. And for the first time in years, I can finally breathe. The world outside feels different now, brighter somehow. There's a freshness in the air that I never knew existed before, like the weight of a lifetime has been lifted off my shoulders. It's been weeks since the trial, but it's almost like I'm seeing the world with new eyes. My father's world, the one built on manipulation, fear, and control, is slowly unraveling. And for the first time in so long, I'm free from its grip. Neighbors who once greeted him with forced smiles now avoid him altogether. They don't look at him, crossing the street when they see him coming. The same people who once admired him now act as though he's invisible. He's no longer the man they looked up to. His reputation is shattered. His attempts to return to volunteer work at the local community center were rejected. His background check exposed too much. His mask is gone, and the lies that he so carefully weaved around himself have crumbled. For the first time, he's powerless, and I can't help but feel the weight of that truth. But there's a strange emptiness that lingers. I should feel victorious, but instead I feel freedom. Not because of his downfall, but because I am free now. I don't have to live in fear of him anymore. I can finally breathe. The world that he once controlled no longer has a hold on me, and for the first time in years, I feel like I can start over. And that's exactly what I'm doing. I've moved into my own apartment. It's small, but it's mine. There's a sense of ownership that I've never felt before, a sense of independence that fills me with pride. The walls are bare, but they hold promise. I've hung a photo of my mom on the wall, the same one I kept hidden for so long. It's a simple gesture, but it feels like I'm honoring her, like I'm bringing her with me into this new chapter of my life. I used to think that leaving my father's house meant leaving my past behind, but now I see it differently. I carry my past with me, not as a burden, but as a source of strength. It doesn't hold me back anymore. It fuels me. I've also started therapy. I never thought I would. Honestly, I thought I was fine. But talking to someone, even anonymously through a mental health app, has been a revelation. Each session is a step forward, a small but significant piece in the puzzle of my healing. My therapist doesn't have all the answers, but she's helping me unpack the years of emotional baggage I've carried. I'm learning to trust myself again. And though it's difficult, I'm beginning to trust others, too. It's a long road, but I'm walking it one step at a time. Joining a running club has been another decision I never thought I'd make, but it's been empowering. Every stride feels like I'm taking back control, like I'm finally running towards something positive. With each breath, I feel stronger, and with each mile, I'm reminded that I am free. The people in my running club don't know my story, but they support me in ways I never thought possible. They've become a part of my new life, and I'm grateful for them. But even with all the progress, the scars are still there. Some of them are physical, the bruises that never fully healed, the marks that serve as reminders of what I've been through. But the deeper scars, the ones inside, those are harder to deal with. I'm learning to live with them, to carry them without letting them define me. They're part of who I am, but they don't control me anymore. They never will again. The most important lesson I've learned, and the one I want to share with you, is this: abuse thrives in silence. For years, I kept my pain hidden, afraid to speak up, terrified of what might happen if I did. I pretended to be the perfect daughter, keeping the family's secrets, keeping up the illusion of a happy life. But the truth? It was suffocating me. When I finally spoke up, when I broke my silence, everything changed. I took back my power, and I'll never let it go. If you're facing something similar, if you're trapped, controlled, manipulated, know this: your voice matters. You matter. If you've been hurt, if you've been silenced, you have the right to speak up. You have the right to fight for your freedom. You have the right to break free, just like I did. I know that it's not easy. It takes time. But you don't have to do it alone. There is a community of people, just like I found, who will support you every step of the way. If you're not ready to speak yet, that's okay. Take your time. But just know that your voice is powerful, and it deserves to be heard. This story isn't just mine. It's for anyone who has faced the suffocating grip of control, manipulation, or abuse. I broke my silence, and you can too. If this story spoke to you, if it resonated with something deep inside, I want to hear your story. Drop a comment below. Have you faced control like this? Share your story and let's help others find their voice. Share this video with someone who might be suffering in silence. And if you haven't already, subscribe for more stories that can inspire, heal, and empower. Every day I take small steps toward healing. Every day I grow stronger. This is just the beginning of my new life, and I'm no longer afraid to live it.